When food is ingested and placed into the oral cavity, digestion begins. And digestion begins through mechanical means. So we have mechanical digestion and through chemical means. So we have chemical digestion. For mechanical digestion, this is essentially mastication. Mastication is a fancy word for chewing. And when we chew and crush up our food or break it into smaller components, what happens is that it increases the surface area so that we can begin this chemical digestion. And that chemical digestion is started and aided by saliva. And saliva is a key component to the GI tract. And it has a couple different jobs. Number one is that it is to soften and moisten food particles. Okay? So it is a fluid. Saliva is a fluid, and it helps to sort of soften or moisten that food so that it doesn't actually create any sort of mechanical damage to the GI tract. So think about Captain Crunch, right? Or your favorite sort of hard cereal. And if you were to swallow that, it would be very abrasive and it would create a lot of damage. So our saliva helps to soften that food. It also starts the process of digestion, and it does so with starting the digestion of our starches with an amylase known as salivary amylase. Right? It also helps with our taste. So the saliva, the fluid of the saliva, will dissolve the tastants so that they can be picked up by the taste receptors in our taste buds. And it also plays a role in defense. So there are enzymes that help break things down. These are basically lysozymes. And then there are immunoglobulins. We'll write that one down. Immunoglobulins that help break down and attack various pathogens like bacteria and viruses. Right? Now, our saliva, this saliva is mostly water, but we have to remember that it is an exocrine function, right? Exocrine function, meaning it's going out to the exterior of the body because it's being released into the oral cavity. And this is done by the parotid glands, or some people refer to these as the parotoid glands, so you might see that one. You have the sublingual gland, so this is gland underneath of the tongue itself, and then you have the submandibular glands, submandibular, right? Now, when the saliva is produced inside of the cells, these acinar cells, right? It's going to secrete a substance that is going to resemble the sort of extracellular fluid. All right. Now, as it passes through the duct, it's going to undergo some modifications so that it starts to resemble the intracellular fluid, where the saliva itself is going to have a high potassium content, right? And it's going to have a low sodium content, right? But it's going to also reabsorb water as it passes through the duct. We're also going to reabsorb some of these ions as it passes through the duct. But the absorption of the ions is higher than the absorption of water. So what happens is that by the time the saliva is released, right, or secreted, it is hypoosmotic, right? So we're reabsorbing this ions, right? But we're not reabsorbing the water as much, right? So a little bit of water, not a whole lot of water, so that the overall resulting saliva itself, right, is a high proportion of water to solutes.